Hello, friends. Today's episode is with Dr. Ana Luna. Dr. Ana Luna works with Pachamama Sacred Paths as a facilitator of sacred plant medicine. This conversation is about her life. It is about all of the things that she has gone through, all of the rites of passage, and all of the self-transformative things that she has done in her life, going from the world of academia to the world of sacred plant medicine, and her work with Pachamama Sacred Paths. Enjoy Mindful Mutiny today. Welcome to the Mindful Mutiny podcast. I'm Jeremy, and I founded Mindful Mutiny as a podcast, a community, and a commitment to live a high frequency life. I want to help you cultivate purpose, clarity, and structure. I'm an experienced therapist, transformational coach, former executive, and psychedelic specialist. Go to mindfulmutiny.com to subscribe to my newsletter, schedule a consultation, or just to get more information about what my coaching can do for you. If you support positivity, I'd be honored to have you as a Patreon subscriber. On Patreon, there will be bonus material and a community of Mindful Mutiny fans that believe in human potential and living a high-value life. Also, check out the link in the description for my spring store with merchandise that supports the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Mindful Mutiny is sponsored by Exponential Intelligence. Exponential Intelligence teaches you how to raise your consciousness and be the most wise, evolved, and brilliant version of yourself. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. Mindful Mutiny is also sponsored by Pachamama Sacred Paths. Pachamama's mission is to facilitate individual awakening through sacred plant medicine, spiritual retreats, and ancient teachings, ultimately contributing to the collective ascension of consciousness. With over a decade of experience hosting retreats, Pachamama is distinguished by its commitment to ancient wisdom, shamanic practice, and ethical care for participants. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the Mindful Mutiny podcast, Dr. Ana Luna. Dr. Luna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you today and engage this dialogue. Thank you.
We've got so much to talk about because I'm just coming off of a big weekend with Pachamama Sacred Paths, and I'm still in this wonderful kind of lifted spirit kind of place. So I think it's going to be a really beautiful conversation. And I want to read a quick bio about you and then get into your work with Pachamama Sacred Paths. Dr. Ana Luna is a Chicana healer, counselor, and medicine woman with deep ancestral roots in the Chichimeca and Purepecha lineages of Mexico. Her spiritual path has included profound initiations such as the Lakota Vision Quest, women's sweat lodge ceremonies, and deep work within the Native American Church. With over 15 years of experience in traditional indigenous healing arts, she has also trained as a Reiki master, yoga teacher, and Hampeg in the Q'ero lineage of Peru. Guided by spirit and ancestral memory, Dr. Luna is devoted to living a life of ceremony, prayer, and sacred service to the community of healing. Dr. Luna, I'm so excited to have you here, and I wanted to start with what your work is with Pachamama Sacred Paths.
Yes, well, Pachamama Sacred Paths, I'm a facilitator currently, and I'm just getting started with them, getting to know the community over the last year, getting to know Andres and DNA and Manuel and also Yvonne, who's the other facilitator. And they're just a great group of people. I enjoy spending time with them, and we have a vision of bringing, awakening, spiritual awakening to humanity, to people all over, and through our experiences with the medicine, bringing medicine to people. And medicine looks like a lot of different things, what medicine is, and so I'm facilitating, I'm sharing medicine with people.
So the medicine that you share, it is all of the ancestral medicine. It's ayahuasca, San Pedro, Niños Santos, and Bufo, and all of these different ones done within the careful and culturally appropriate guise of the training and the ancestry and being initiated properly, which is incredibly important for this medicine.
Mhm.
And I I know that you've had a lot of training to get yourself to the point where you're actually helping facilitate people go through a deeply transformative, very personal process. And how much training, how long have you been working at this and learning these medicines?
Oh my goodness. Like 15 years, really. And I started working with actually peyote and ayahuasca, and I've done, with peyote through the Native American Church, and with ayahuasca, I've been to several plant dietas in South America, in Peru, in Colombia, and really my own personal journey of healing, which has taken this long, for me to actually get to the point where I can hold space for others and offer this sacred sacrament to others. It's a very delicate process, and for me, I have so much reverence. I have so much reverence for these medicines. They're very powerful master teacher plants and allies and my friends, really. So to be able to actually offer them to others is just it's the most beautiful thing that I could possibly do in being in service in that way. So it's been a long relationship, connecting with the plant medicines and many plant medicines. So not just these ones, but other ones in dietas where I've had 10 days, 15 days of fasting, a very limited diet, working with specific plants, including ayahuasca and other ones. Um, so yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a journey for sure.
Well, in this journey, and the subtext of what it is that you're talking about is there's this kind of concept looking in from the outside that the title of Hempeg, the title of Pampamasayak, the title of shaman is anointed with a person who has authority. And I think that there's a lot of Western thought that comes from Christian traditions, that there is a priest, there is a bishop, there is a generally a man of leadership, and that's how it's looked at. Whereas the Hampeg, the shaman, is a person of service, which quite honestly is what a pastor is supposed to be, right? But it's looked at differently. And what I'm kind of getting at here is that your own personal process of learning who you are deep down, unprogramming yourself from the messages that we grow up with in a Western nation. Can you talk about the process of you stripping away old identities to get to the place where you are now? And what was that process like for you?
Well, that's a really good question, because I when I came to the medicines, it was a total surprise. I knew nothing about plant medicines with this kind of power, plant medicines that were so potent. So when I came in, I moved to New Mexico for my doctorate degree in counseling psychology. When I moved to New Mexico, it just happened to be that one of my peers invited me to a sweat lodge ceremony. And I said yes, and I went to that sweat lodge ceremony. And then I was invited to participate in a woman's changing ceremony, which in a lot of Indigenous traditions, there's these rites of passage, right? So from becoming a girl to becoming a woman, for men also from becoming boys to becoming men, which is something that is missing in this American society. We don't really
Yes.
have those moments to pause and say something's happening to me, and I need to take the time to honor it. Not just honor it, but also receive advice from the elders on how to be and how to live. So interesting for me how things happen. But when I was invited to that sweat lodge, I was invited to this group that was also going to do this changing ceremony in a modern world. It was a White Mountain Apache ceremony, and that was sort of like my first experience of like you're saying, like peeling away these layers of who I am. Like, who am I really? What is this? What is this body that I'm living in? What are these thoughts that I have? And in the middle of my doctorate program, which, you know, is all very heady, is all theory and research and science. And so here I am, stripping away pretty much everything that I was learning in my doctorate program. That's
Yes.
really what I was stripping away. And that's how it started. From there, I was invited to a peyote ceremony, and what it did for me, even more than stripping away, because yes, I did have to go through this decolonization process, so decolonizing myself, from Western epistemology, Western thinking, and claim my Indigenous heritage. So that's what happened for me. What happened for me is that I remembered who I am. Remembering who I am for me was claiming my indigeneity, claiming that I have mixed blood from Mexico, from indigenous communities, and recognizing the history of oppression that also happened at the hands of my ancestors, you know, Spanish European ancestors that I have. And so I had to, for a long time, peel away those aspects of any kind of self-hatred that I had of myself, for knowing my ancestors actually hurt my other ancestors, right? There was this battle
Sure.
going on, inside of me. And so, I mean, all of that took many, many years and many, many ceremonies, but every ceremony I would start to remember. It was like it was activating ancestral memories inside of me, activating DNA encodings so that I could remember who I am. And through that too, in part of my dissertation, I actually elaborated on a theory, mestiza consciousness theory, which was originally written by a Chicana author, a Chicana activist. She was an English professor. She was Mexican American, and she was lesbian. And she wrote about, I mean, she's pretty famous in the Chicano community. She wrote a book called Borderlands La Frontera. And in that, she talked about this space of being in between. As Mexican American people, we have indigenous background, we have Spanish background, European, and we're always in between, because when we go to Mexico, we're not really Mexican. And when we're here in the United States, we're also not American. So what are we? We're actually native to the Americas. We are from here. So all of that, it was part of my, reclaiming my identity. Yes, peeling away parts of me of who I wasn't, and remembering who I am, who I was, and who I am.
Mhm. You know, this incredibly deep conversation that you're having here, dare I say, every one of us has been separated from our ancient past. And
Yeah.
I know that you have, in the exact ways that you are talking about here. And so have I, as a Nordic person, that, Christianity has done its work through the last several centuries and separated people like me from what would have been considered indigenous past
Yes.
was. And that for me has been a very involved process of trying to figure out what is that pre-Christian identity, because it's very difficult to kind of peel those layer backs and find that information. Now, for you, it had to be a really beautiful awakening for you of feeling an incredible amount of power, feeling those ancestors for you that want to pass down that wonderful that power, that understanding, that support for you. What was it like for you when you really started awakening to who you were born to be?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, it was. I mean, it was and is powerful, because still, in my work today, right, the work that I'm doing now, my ancestors are with me, you know, and it. and I can feel them, you know. And actually, when I did the Humpek training initiation in Mexico with Andres, one of the first rites that we received, which I had already received all the rites, but of course, Andres has a very unique way of initiating people with medicine, and it's so powerful. But you know, he was gonna give me that first carpa, the first initiation, and he's whoa, like you're charged up, you know, si estás cargada, and I'm like, yeah, my ancestors are here. So yeah, and through the visionary experiences that we receive with abuela, you know, with ayahuasca, one of the first, I mean, so many, but some of the visions that I've seen during ayahuasca, it are my ancestors, are these tribes, a community of people that is behind me, and being able to see them through the visions with ayahuasca is just so powerful. So you know, so they call it the vine of the dead, right? You know that, and so through
Yes.
that we can connect with our ancestors and see them and bring healing to them, bring peace to them, and that helps us to come into harmony.
So, am I correct in saying that you were raised in the Christian church? Were you a Catholic or a Christian?
I was raised Catholic. Yeah, like a
No,
good Mexican, like
I'm sorry. I
American.
didn't mean to delineate that Catholics aren't Christian or anything like that. I just was
Yeah, no,
wondering.
no, yeah. You
Uh,
know,
uh,
it's just a little different, Catholic and Christian
sure.
specifically, right? Different traditions.
And so you're getting into this very deep indigenous part of you, and then you're going through, and I want to just like put this in context for everybody. So one of the wonderful things that Pachamama Sacred Paths does is they don't just simply do retreats. There's also paths of learning, paths of understanding. And these paths of learning are understanding of yourself, of your own spiritual gifts, of your own lineage, of what the Karo tradition is, of what these medicines can do, what your mind can do in different states of consciousness. And there are initiation courses and ceremonies that you can be involved with. And that's one of the things that you went through in this Hampeg initiation for you.
Mhm.
Are you able to talk about what that was like in terms of the transformation that you felt inside yourself going through this with a mentor like Andres?
Mhm. Well, it was incredible. I mean, I came in obviously with a lot of experience already. You know, I wasn't a newbie. I wasn't one, two ceremonies in my practice. It's been hundreds and hundreds of ceremonies for me. So I was coming in knowing that I needed something to shift inside of me. I still needed something to shift inside of me. And one of the things that had been coming up for me is this limiting belief. It was a limiting belief that was really holding me back from fully stepping into myself and this path that I've been called to serve the medicine. I've been called already to be in service as a psychologist, so that wasn't the issue. Some people have issue with just being in service. That wasn't the issue for me. But the issue for me was stepping in and claiming this path, the medicine path, and serving others the medicine. Because in my more traditional Indigenous Native American training, um, it's something that we're given. It's not necessarily something that we like reach out for and ask for and like take classes and pay for things like this. It's not like that. So it was going like breaking free from even that, right? Breaking free from limitations on how this is supposed to look like. How is it supposed to look like for me to really step into myself fully, step into myself fully. And so that was a limiting belief of self-doubt. I shouldn't do this. How am I going to do this? You know, those kinds of self-fear, self-doubt, self-worth kind of things that a lot of us deal with and don't say anything
Right.
about it, right?
Yeah.
So I knew I had that, right? So I went with a totally open heart and full trust really in the medicine, not so much in Andres because I more so trust the medicine than I do people. And Andres will tell you the same thing. Follow your intuition, follow you're your own teacher, really. And some of us can guide, right? If we have more experience, we could guide and hold space for certain processes to happen. But ultimately, we're in charge of what we're doing. But me, yes, I'm in charge and I'm being guided by the medicine. So in the first few days of the ceremonies, because we're going through um, first Cambo, and going through that detoxification and purification process, and then the ayahuasca ceremonies, and and in those first ayahuasca ceremonies is where that limiting belief, it was right in my face, like right there. It's like, and I so I had this fear that came over me, and I heard that little voice. There was this voice deep inside of me that was saying, just that, you can't do this. What are you doing? You can't do this. The you can't.
Hmm.
And so that the beauty of ayahuasca is that she shows us exactly what our shadows are, right? And it's right there. And so yeah, so I looked at it, and I had the opportunity to Andres's companion Vianney. She's a psychologist in Mexico, and she's very, very well versed in her psychological tools. So I said, can I talk to you? And we processed that, teasing apart that voice that I was hearing, and it was really the critical father. It was the critical father voice that was coming forward.
Sure.
And I was able to see, that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not my voice. And not that it went away, right? I mean, I went into the next ceremony and it was there, but I could see it and say, okay, you're not in charge of me. I'm in charge of me, and we're doing this.
Well, and that father part of you is also going to be a part of you that is very proud to
Uh,
be a doctor, to very
uh,
proud to be a psychologist. And I'm also a license holder. I'm a marriage and family therapist in California. And
mhm,
I know that my first experience with medicine was one when I kind of came back to myself. It was, my God, everything that I learned in school is wrong. I have to figure out what my life is, what my practice is now versus what I was very sure that I knew before this experience. Can you talk about I don't know if battle is the right word, but the duality here between the psychologist, Dr. Luna, and
mhm.
the Hampeg, uh, Luna, and
Hmm.
what that is, how you were able to either make this shift into this, go from one side to the other side, or you straddle them both. What is this with you?
It's straddling them both, really. It's embracing them both. And really what really actually pushed me to doing the Hampek initiation, the 2 weeks of very intensive work, is actually my family. I have two nephews, and one of them needed a surgery, and the other one was born with a condition. And it was their spirits that really pushed me, because I wanted to understand how do we really help people heal? How and as psychologists or mental health workers, we think we know how to help people heal, right? That's what we do, or that's what we want to do. We want to help people feel better. But psychology, as I learned it, up to my doctorate degree, it wasn't enough to heal ancestral trauma. It wasn't enough to heal historical trauma. It wasn't enough to heal generational trauma. And we study it a little bit when we look at post-traumatic stress disorder, and we still don't have a good really way to diagnose like complex trauma disorder, which was rejected from the last DSM as far as I knew. Um, so when my nephews, when I saw that they were going through, more severe health conditions, I said, okay, I need to step into myself because I need to learn more. How do we really help people heal? How can I help my nephews? And not that I was able to help them necessarily, but that was really like the push that I needed to go forward. And seeing one of my nephews who actually he passed away, he seeing him go through what he went through in the medical system, and then using all my tools, everything that I possibly have to offer in what you all call shamanism. I'm still grappling with the term shaman, but energy medicine, working with nature, working with the elements, communing with nature, really, plant medicines, nature, the elements, the four sacred directions, all of that, like the spiritual aspect of it, um, and learning how do we marry the two? How do we bring the two together? Because there are some really wonderful things that Western medicine has to offer. And of course, there's some amazing things that shamanism and indigenous spirituality has to offer. So, how do we bring the two together and honor the best of both worlds? So, for me, it's always straddling. Like I mentioned, the book Borderlands La Frontera, being in between, that in between is all the time. And so, it's not just being Mexican and American, it's also between the spirit realm and the physical realm, navigating both worlds. We're constantly moving between realms, between dimensions. We don't realize that we're doing that, but we are doing it. So that's sort of, I don't know if that answers your question fully about the two, the Western world as a psychologist and this healing world is how do we use both
Yeah.
is where I'm at. And I don't have the answer yet fully, but I'm in the process of integrating and honoring both.
Well, part of the issue is that it's as different in many ways as playing the piano and playing the guitar. You have two very different lines of thought, two very different manners of thinking in this. And this is one of the reasons why I think that the careful scientific study of psychedelic medicine in the Western world is number one, a bit silly to me. Number two, they're having such a difficult time because it doesn't fit easily into the Western model of thought. Because the
Mhm.
Western model of thought, when you're going through these programs, these doctorate or master's degree programs, there's entire courses on psychopharmacology. The
Mhm.
concept that the pill helps people live their lives when there's this other side that goes, the healing is deep within. The healing is community. The healing is dropping off old, unhelpful ideals, connecting deeply with spirit.
Mhm.
That's hard to put in a textbook
Yeah.
and understand, and it's certainly not endorsed by any of the big companies that sell pills. And
Right.
so, it can be hard for the licensed practitioner to do this. How do I meld these two worlds? I know I have this same issue when I have to put an insurance number down for what is going wrong in a person's life, when I can see that the issue is a deep spiritual wound that the person
Mhm.
has, and that with the
Mhm.
right kind of support, the right kind of spirit, that person would likely come much more alive than ruminating on the
Yeah.
same trauma over and over and kind of hoping that talking about it ad nauseum and learning to breathe and relax is going to take care of a spiritual wound,
Yeah.
which is the issue that I often tend to have as I begin to evolve. And so it sounds like you have a lot of that same kind of still trying to work on figuring it out.
Mhm. Well, I had to let go. I mean, I almost quit my doctorate program. I the only reason why I finished it, one, because I'm very goal oriented and I
Yeah.
like to finish what I start, and because I had sisters. I had sisters that I met along the way that were just really encouraging and helped me, um, like sat with me in ceremony, sat with me in ceremony, and we prayed, and we visioned together, and I was able to get through the doctorate program because of the community that I had established through the plant medicines, through my work with spirituality. And then and even still, I finished all my requirements, and to this day I'm not licensed. So I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
yeah, I mean, I rejected all of everything that I had learned a lot for many years. So now at this point, I think that's part of my healing process too. In this last year and working with Andres is reclaiming that too, because I need to honor all the work that I put in, and valuing the parts of psychology that are helpful, because I saw that with VNA, in the middle of the retreat, using her psychological tools and helping, just having a space to externally speak something out that was inside my head, right? Having a space to do that, bringing it out into the open and saying, oh yeah, that's not my voice. I can recognize it as not my voice, and I don't have to follow along with that. And then, and then I saw, wow, psychology can be helpful in different moments for certain things. But what psychology misses is what you said, like the spiritual component, right? The energy behind the ailments that we're going through. It's not just a physical thing. There are the other directions, which is the body, the spirit, the emotions, right? That's the medicine wheel: mind, body, soul, emotions. We look at all directions to understand what a person is dealing with. Sometimes it's the mind, and we need psychological tools. We need positive affirmations to start to change the way that we're thinking about things. And if it's our body, people need different medicines, different medications for different purposes. So is it a plant medicine that's needed? Or, what I have found with people is that once they're invested in the Western system and they're fully in the medical model and taking pharmaceuticals and all the medications that Western doctors recommend, they can't really use plant medicine anymore. They can't use natural medicine anymore, because it's dangerous for them. So I mean, I have my friend's father that is diabetic, and all the wonderful, good healing foods that he could possibly eat are going to increase his potassium levels. So he can't have too much potassium in his system. So he can't eat too many green foods, He can't drink too much water because it's too much for his. So it's like all these ways that then the Western system starts to deplete and deteriorate our body. And it's just helping us function, but it's very dysfunctional.
Can you talk about your work with women? Because in your bio, it talks about your passion for working with women and the things that women go through. Can you talk about the specific struggles that women are commonly dealing with when they come to see you, and what you see them begin to shed, or how they grow when you're
Mhm.
watching the medicine help them?
Oh gosh. Well, I'll share from my experience and why I'm so passionate about working with women, because I grew up in a very abusive household,
Okay.
and so from a very young age I saw um, that my mother was struggling. My mother was struggling in all these ways with violence in the home, and having to raise three children, and not knowing English. She immigrated. She came from Mexico when she was 15, and when her father was killed.
A rite of passage is something that is so tremendously important, and so many Western countries and societies have left that concept behind. But it is a community concept, it is a family concept, it is a faith concept, and there's a reason why this has existed in human history for so long, and that societies that are very, very strong still adhere to the concept of a rite of passage. Can you talk about your own rite of passage and the importance of rites of passage in for a person?
Hmm. Well, for me, I did the Lakota, call it or amblecheya, which means crying for a vision. And Lakota, that's what it means. It means crying for a vision. And so it's actually, I mean, it's really a lifelong commitment. It's not, we commit in 4-year periods. So when you commit to there's 7 different ceremonies actually in the Lakota. So the vision quest is one of those 7 sacred ceremonies. Then there's the Chanupa ceremony, there's the Inipi ceremony, which is the sweat lodge ceremony, there's the Sundance ceremony, and then there's a woman ceremony, and there's 2 other ceremonies as well. And so the vision quest is one of those 7 sacred ceremonies, and it's typically a 4-year commitment. And you go up, you get planted on a hill for 4 days and 4 nights, and you fast, no food or water for 4 days and 4 nights it's a 4-year commitment. So, and through that process, at the end of it, if you get to the end of those 4 years, you end up receiving chanupa pipe, which is a sacred pipe. And with that comes a responsibility to offer prayers to the people, to pray for the people. And there's a whole story that came with the chanupa. But the rite of passage for me, my understanding and what I experience is taking that pause, taking the time for reflection and shedding away, as we were talking about in the beginning, right? Shedding away aspects of ourselves that are not serving us, taking that time to offer of ourselves, offer the fact that I'm not going to be drinking food or drinking water or eating food for those 4 days. So in that I'm giving of myself. That's what we talk about. We're giving of ourselves to bring that vision, to bring clarity into our lives, to bring new meaning, new understanding. What do we need to do to be better people for our communities, for our families? It's always that, right? We're in a community, so Western thought is very individualistic. It's all about us. And this is totally different. It's not just about us. It's not just about me. And maybe sometimes maybe people could be motivated by, I just want to have that chanupa. I just want to have that pipe. And what we don't realize is that when we take on these prayers is that we're taking on responsibilities, the responsibilities to to go somewhere when we're being called. If somebody needs a prayer, somebody needs something, we're going to go there when we're being called. So for me, the rite of passage is, I mean, it's so much. There's so much to it, but it's a changing our lives, changing our perspective, taking the time, communing with nature, releasing parts of ourselves, and coming into a new form. So when we come out of that, when we're done with those 4 days, we come out and we go and we sweat in the inipi. We go back into the sweat lodge ceremony and we shed away that old part of us, and we come forward as new people that are able to serve our communities in a better way, in a bigger way, more alignment and harmony with nature, with the elements.
What for you was the hardest thing to let go of?
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember back to when I was there. um it I think it's pain.
Mm.
It's pain, because in my life, I've been so used to experiencing pain, like suffering, and even going into an amblecha ceremony, it feels like suffering, right? I don't know if you've ever gone without food or water for 4 days or any
Nope.
length of time. Yeah, if you ever do, it's pretty interesting what we go through. Um, but it can feel painful, right? It can feel like suffering, but like switching that idea to making an offering.
Letting go of the natural human tendency to satisfy every urge, the natural human tendency to do for yourself, transforming it into what isn't necessarily considered well, it's not a natural human instinct to give, to forego the self. There's a natural inclination towards feeding the self, towards doing for the self first. To let go of that, how did that how did that really change your overall perspective?
Oh, well, one, it gives me a new baseline. I mean, a totally new baseline for what I can possibly handle, what I think I can handle, because we go through things in life that are really hard, and some things can feel unbearable. But when you go through something like that and you give of yourself, you're like, okay, I can do this and I can be there for somebody else who's suffering, who is suffering. I can be a witness to that. Otherwise, how could I be a witness if I don't come to face with my own suffering and my own pain? How can I be there for somebody else? No, I will run away from it. I would run away from it. I would avoid it because I don't want to see that. And we can see that when people are dying, most people don't want to go be with somebody that's dying.
Right. Right. But when you're a person of service, you do these things, and you go and sit with people who are in their pain. And I imagine that sometimes there's a certain sense of is it unpleasant, or is it more of a feeling of being honored to be there? What kind of is it for you? Have you had to learn to overcome kind of more of those self-focused emotions?
Yeah, I mean, that's still there. I'm still human, right? It's not
Sure.
always pleasant, but being okay with it, just recognizing it and being okay with it. It's fine. I mean, it's like when you drink the medicine, right? In the beginning, it doesn't necessarily feel good. It doesn't taste great. It's not, I mean, I don't know what it's how if you like the taste of it. and, and the initial sensations that we experience, right? Like it comes into our system, it's in our stomach, and serotonin receptors are being activated, and our gut is like going through it, right? It's not pleasant, but then you experience that, you get comfortable with that discomfort, and then you get to the other side of that, and oh my God, it's magic, it's beautiful. And then you get to the other side of that and you go back home and you're like, everything looks different. Like, what just happened to me?
Yes. It's true. And having just sat with the medicine, I know that for me right now, I have today a little, and last night a little less tolerance for things that are inauthentic, and a less tolerance for things that are pretentious. And I it just clicked with me in what you were just talking about, that I've been a little short with things over the last 24 hours. And why have I come home and been a little short with specific things? And it's because there is a for me a lack inside of me of tolerance for things that are not real,
Hmm.
things that are really fake.
Yeah.
And it just clicked with me. It's kind of a profound realization just for me sitting here listening to you talk about this. Um, but I wanted to also ask you about what you do kind of on a weekly basis, your own practice, because you do yoga, you do Reiki, you are a psychologist, and you're a medicine woman. And so what is it that you do? Because I know that you serve many different communities and you do many different things. How and where do you serve people?
Well, right now I've been really traveling for the last few years, and my main focus right now is actually obtaining land for a healing sanctuary. That's my main focus. And so I have been working with another nonprofit organization. I have my own nonprofit, by the way, and then I'm working with nonprofits, and I'm working with this very special nonprofit up in northern Nevada, that is working on that. It's a land back project. It's the Washoe community, and we're putting we want to put, well, the Washoe this Washoe organization wants to put the People's House on the ground, which is a place for prayer and ceremony, and for the Washoes to be able to have a place for prayer and ceremony, which they do not currently have. In the Tahoe Basin, they do not have a place, a land that is theirs where they can go and do this. So I'm working on that project. And so I go up to Northern Nevada and then I come back to Southern California. Right now I'm in Southern California. So I'm traveling back and forth, but a lot of my work is doing the nonprofit work. It's not anything fancy, or, it's just we're on the ground and we're talking to people, trying to raise money, uh, being on the land. Part of it is being on the land. We go on hikes, and we're we're harvesting plants, getting to know plants, and that's a lot of what I'm doing, really. And calls on Zoom and meetings and all the technology part, um, serving people when they call on me. And so I go where I'm called, basically.
That actually sounds pretty awesome. Your venue changes so much, and you're able to go to so many different places and serve so many interesting people. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I want to return for a moment to your work in serving medicine. And what do you see as the biggest wound that people in our society are dealing with?
Um, just connection. We talked about that a little bit earlier when we were talking about our indigeneity. I think I feel like that's really the biggest wound, being disconnected from everything, being disconnected from nature, but ultimately being disconnected from God, from our divinity, from our own self, who we really are. We're these amazing divine beings, but we forgot that, and we don't know that we are. So what I see with with the work of the medicine is people seeing their divinity and feeling connected to themselves, and that brings so much healing.
I just want to sit with that concept for just a moment here, the concept of actually connecting with who we are and connecting with the divine part of ourselves, because it's definitely not something that is built into the way we do society. And I think that it's quite literally driving us crazy.
Mhm.
This pretending to be certain roles of ourselves and separating ourselves from not only our ancestral uh, lineages, but our societies, our
Mhm.
separation from the people around us. And homes are built now to have the garage in front. People come in, they go to the garage, they put the garage door down. People don't know their neighbors' last names. People don't hang out with their neighbors. I've experienced this through my adult life, and there is such a lack of connection with the people around us, and also a loneliness epidemic. And this weekend, I spent this time with these people I'd never known before with Pachamama Sacred Paths, and there was such a sense of sadness in leaving this small group of, it was 6 people, because over the weekend we had spoke about things in our hearts that many of us had never spoke about to anybody. That sense of community support, vulnerability, that sense of I see you. And people brought severe pain to the circle to process, and people people wept in their pain, and other people touched those people, and to soothe them. There was a ceremony we did where we closed our eyes and we put our hands in the middle and we touched each other's hands, and you didn't know whose hand you were touching. I don't touch other people's hands. I don't ever do that. And it was so healing. It was so profound in just reaching out and touching another human being's hand, because we are so starved from that touch, that level of intimacy with other people. And it's it's a kind of medicine that is so profoundly needed. And I want to also define the term medicine, because that was medicine. That was
Hmm.
medicine. It's not something that you necessarily have to swallow. Medicine is love. Medicine is music. We danced. Medicine is dance.
Yes.
Medicine is laughter. And I never heard that before in any of my training as a therapist, that medicine is laughter, that medicine is touching another person's hand, that
Mhm.
medicine is the enrichment of sincere community and having other people who don't have titles just say, I see you. I understand. I know pain too. I get that. And so you being a facilitator of this, you help people come in and form these little communities of 5, 6, 7, up to 50 people, and to bare their souls in an experience that has profound healing properties, that people walk away after knowing each other for 72 hours and go, I'll never forget you.
Yeah.
And so can you talk about that experience in crafting the community in these small groups that become so profound so quickly?
Well, there's protocols. There are protocols. There are certain things that need to happen. I think maybe one of the biggest things is creating or fostering a sense of safety to the best of our ability that we possibly can, because I know for me and understanding trauma, it's very hard to feel safe no matter how many things that we can put to be safe. But crafting and fostering the safest space that we possibly can, and then within that space, um, honoring the ancestors, honoring spirits, honoring the guides to come in and facilitate too. So whenever we're in these circles, it's not just me alone. It's not just me facilitating, right? It's all of the helpers, all of the ancestors that come with me, all of my guides, all of those who have been here for millennia, offering these kinds of services, calling on them and saying, hey, come help me out. And not just that, but each the ancestors of each person too, the guides of each person, the higher wisdom of each person, to come forward and come into the circle and say what is needed. Let's bring everything that is needed into this circle, seen and unseen, and letting all of those elements work. And then and then, like I know Manuel, he does the biodanza, and he does a lot of these really cool engagements, right? Yeah, like touching each other's hands and looking into each other's eyes and hugging each other, having that human contact, human connection that we so need. So creating those opportunities for people to connect with each other, to get into their bodies, to release the trauma that's stored inside of their bodies, ancestral memories, and working with the elements to help us to move that energy out. So, and there's a protocol. There's protocols, and even actually, I'm loving the protocol that Andres has with Pachamama Sacred Paths. I mean, it's a very unique protocol. It's very intense. Um, as a traditional, again, like from with my traditional training, it's like unheard of to work like this with medicines. But he's crafted a really amazing protocol, coming in to purify with gambo, and then recognizing our shadows with ayahuasca, Niños Santos. I don't know if you guys had San Pedro, Niños Santos. Niños Santos, I learned how it can help to dissolve the ego so that we can embrace those shadow, not, yeah, dissolve the ego, or let down the ego so that we can embrace the shadow aspects that we saw. And then San Pedro, or Bufo, is like coming back to spirit, like connecting with the divine celestial energy. And then sometimes, you'll get hape after that to ground back and be able to go back into life again. So every medicine and the way that it's given has its very unique purpose. So the purpose and the function of each part of the process is important.
Yeah, there's a that protocol that you're talking about going through. It feels so well devised, so perfect in the way that it flows into the next experience, flows into the next experience. And if you go on a Pachamama Sacred Paths retreat, you're going to be doing sequentially these different medicines, and these different medicines, they have different personalities. They have different things that they affect, things that they don't affect. And the protocol of what comes first, second, third, fourth, it's like a story in an entire weekend of medicine. And it's so much that you go home and your mind is kind of blown. And it's almost like you're walking back into your life from a different dimension and looking at your life as kind of almost foreign to you in a certain way, because you are not the same person that you were before the weekend. You are a higher version of yourself. And what Pachamama Sacred Paths does is they work with you to do what's called integration, which is taking all of that all of that new piece those new pieces of you through the weekend, and helping you be able to integrate those things into your life. I obviously need to work on not being irritated by things that I see that are not authentic. I need to figure out what that's all about in my own life. And so I'm going to be attending these integration circles to integrate the new me that didn't exist last Wednesday into who I need to be now, for me, for my family, for my world.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to take this time in the podcast to tell you what I love about you, Dr. Luna.
Oh,
I love your incredible authenticity, your emanating kindness, your deep and abiding humility, your willingness to go and to serve any and all. I love the very deep battle that you have had to fight within yourself to figure out the deep and ancestral pieces of you. I love that your life is devoted to medicine, and that medicine is the kindness, the song, the spirit, the dance, the community that you formulate in various different places of your life that help people become better versions of themselves in the way that you have dedicated yourself to becoming a better version of yourself. I love the path that you have taken, where you went from a very stratified, westernized concept of of faith, concept of science, concept of psychology, and you felt yourself called to a more authentic part of yourself. And that always comes with some cost in a person's life. And that cost is often a very attractive thing. Every every psychologist I know drives a Tesla or a BMW. And when you're called to the medicine, you're going with the way that you are called to serve individuals. And that is where the spirit needs you to be. And your deep love for humanity, your deep love for helping women, your deep love for helping communities is something that makes you so profoundly wealthy, so profoundly blessed. And I love your your dedication to serving people and making beauty in a civilization that struggles to see art and beauty, in a civilization that struggles with authenticity, with a sense of community, with a sense of deep, abiding appreciation for things of the spirit, ancestry, and really seeing the potential of communities and in each person. And you help people get to that space. So those are the things that I really, really appreciate about what you do, and that you are a part of this incredible community of Pachamama Sacred Paths. And are there any websites that you want people to go to? Is there anything that you want people to be involved with? Anything that you would ask people to take a look at?
Oh, well, I have my website, doctoraluna.space, and then my nonprofit, lunaisoulsanctuary.org, and then my other project, wzgt.org. So I have three different places. And of course, my work with Pachamama. Yes,
Would you do me a favor and email all of those websites to me so that I can make sure those are in the description of this podcast as it goes out?
absolutely. Yes.
Thank you so much for being a guest on Mindful Mutiny.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed our dialogue, and I'm so excited to hear more from you too, Jeremy, and what you're transforming into.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yes, it will take time.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Mindful Mutiny podcast and leave a comment if you've appreciated conversations that I've had with incredible people like Dr. Luna. And remember, in a lifetime, there's more decisions than anybody can count. Living the highest form of yourself is the most rewarding thing that you can do. Make incredible, positive, risky, and bold decisions to be the highest version of you. Now go be something great.